You all know me as the stuttering, turban-wearing man who served as a vessel for Lord Voldemort, the timid teacher who turned out to be the first great threat Harry Potter ever faced. I am often dismissed as a simple, one-dimensional villain, a footnote whose only real purpose was to bring the Dark Lord back into the world. But that's not my whole story. It's not even close. The tale of how a brilliant wizard like me fell so far, so fast, is a tragedy that's often overlooked. My downfall wasn't just about weakness. It was a calculated, psychological manipulation that broke me from the inside out. Let me pull back the turban and uncover the untold story of my bargain, and reveal how Voldemort truly broke Quirinus Quirrell. Before the turban, before the stutter, and before Voldemort, I was just a man. A brilliant one, at that. I was known as a gifted but delicate boy, likely teased during my school years for my timidity. I was a Ravenclaw, a student who excelled academically. But this intelligence was paired with a deep, gnawing insecurity. I felt inadequate and harbored a latent desire to make the world sit up and notice me. Like so many who feel insignificant, I desperately wanted to be important. After graduating, I came back to Hogwarts to teach Muggle studies. While it was a respectable field, it wasn't a role that commanded the kind of or my ego desperately craved. This simmering frustration, this feeling of being small, is the key to my entire story. It wasn't a thirst for pure evil that drove me, but a thirst for validation. I decided to take a sabbatical, a so-called grand tour to gain worldly experience. But my true motive was far more dangerous. I deliberately set out to find whatever remained of the Dark Lord. My fantasy was twofold. At worst, I could be the man who tracked Voldemort down, a feat that would surely bring me fame. At best, I might learn skills from Voldemort that would ensure I was never laughed at again. In my mind, this wasn't a quest for darkness, but for greatness. I naively and arrogantly believed I could control an encounter with Voldemort, even in his weakened state. It was this profound miscalculation, born from a lifetime of insecurity, that sealed my fate. I was walking, not towards glory, but towards my own complete and utter erasure. In the dark forests of Albania, I found what I was looking for, but it wasn't a powerful, commanding Dark Lord. I found a pathetic creature, a being Voldemort himself later described as less than spirit, less than the meanest ghost, a soul surviving by possessing snakes and other small animals. Here, the psychological seduction began. Voldemort didn't need grand, powerful magic. He saw me for exactly what I was, a brilliant mind crippled by a fragile ego. The Dark Lord offered me the one thing I had always craved, validation. He acknowledged my intelligence and the significance of being found by me. In that moment, I believed I was striking a deal. I thought I was entering a partnership with a weakened spirit, a temporary arrangement where I could learn its secrets and emerge powerful and respected. I saw a path to becoming the man I always wanted to be. I was wrong. The moment Voldemort realized this foolish and gullible young man, me, held a teaching position at Hogwarts, the bargain was over. Voldemort took immediate and total possession of me, and I was utterly incapable of resisting. The partnership I imagined was a fantasy. What happened was a hostile takeover. There was no negotiation. There was only domination. I didn't gain a mentor. I gained a parasite that would hollow me out from the inside. Once Voldemort latched onto me, I became a prisoner in my own body. My will was completely subjugated by the Dark Lord, who now looked out from the back of my head, directing my movements and even forcing me to attempt murder. I tried to mount feeble resistance on occasion, but Voldemort was far too strong for me. This wasn't a case of total mind control, but of a man losing an internal war. This parasitic relationship led to a grotesque physical and psychological decay. My body became a living battleground for two souls, and the strain was catastrophic. Over the course of the school year, my body weakened dramatically, withering under the immense pressure of hosting Voldemort. To sustain us both, I was forced into acts of profound self-degradation. I hunted unicorns in the Forbidden Forest, drinking their blood to grant Voldemort a cursed, temporary life. This act alone is a terrible violation of magical purity, a stain on the soul. For a man who once prided himself on his intellect, this was a descent into primal desperation. By sharing my body with Voldemort, I was in effect turned into a temporary Horcrux. My body became a vessel for a fragment of Voldemort's soul, and the toll was immense. I was being drained of my life force by the far stronger, evil soul inside me. By the time I walked through the doors of Hogwarts as the new defense against the dark arts professor, the brilliant academic was all but gone. In my place stood a puppet, a man animated only by fear and the will of another. My horrifying transformation is a perfect example of the dark, intricate details that make the wizarding world so compelling. It shows that even a minor character can have a deep and tragic backstory. If you enjoy deep dives into the forgotten corners of Harry Potter lore, take a moment to subscribe. There are always more stories that hide just beneath the surface. When Harry Potter first met me at the Leaky Cauldron, the possession was already complete. Outwardly, I was just the nervous, stuttering professor, wearing a large purple turban I claimed was a gift from an African prince for dealing with a zombie. This, of course, was a lie. Rumors at Hogwarts suggested the turban was stuffed with garlic to ward off vampires, a comical bit of gossip that perfectly masked the horrifying truth. Throughout the school year, I was a ghost of a man. My actions weren't my own. I let a troll into the dungeons on Halloween as a diversion. During Harry's first Quidditch match, it was I, not Snape, who muttered a dark curse to throw Harry from his broom. Hermione Granger, trying to stop Snape by setting his robes on fire, accidentally knocked me over and broke my eye contact, saving Harry's life without ever realizing it. Every nervous tick, every moment of apparent weakness, was a performance orchestrated by the Dark Lord. The climax of this horrific charade came in the chamber beneath the school, in front of the Mirror of Erist. Here, the last vestiges of Professor Quirinus Quirrell vanished. I revealed that my stutter was gone, my true, cold voice finally emerging. I was, as I admitted, bound by Voldemort's control, a slave to his master's commands. And then came the final, grotesque reveal. I unwrapped my turban, turning to show Harry not the back of a head, but a second face protruding from my skull, the chalk-white, snake-like face of Lord Voldemort. It was the ultimate symbol of my lost identity, a physical sign that Quirrell the man was gone, replaced entirely by the monster I had sought to control. In those final moments, I was little more than a physical extension of Voldemort's will. But Voldemort had made a critical error. He didn't understand the ancient, powerful magic protecting Harry Potter, the lingering sacrifice of his mother, Lily. When I, commanded by Voldemort, reached out to touch Harry, my skin blistered and burned as if on fire. The love magic in Harry's very skin was poison to a soul as corrupted as Voldemort's, and by extension, to the body I shared with him. In a final, desperate act, Voldemort forced me to lunge for the Philosopher's Stone, to seize Harry. The pain was unbearable. My body couldn't withstand the purity of Lily's protection. As my flesh burned away, Voldemort did what he always does. He saved himself. He fled my body at the last possible second, abandoning his host to die. The disembodied spirit of the Dark Lord passed right through Harry, leaving my now empty, dying shell to collapse on the floor, used, broken, and discarded. So, was I a villain? I committed terrible acts in Voldemort's service. There's no denying that. But my story is ultimately one of victimhood. I wasn't a devoted Death Eater, driven by an ideology of blood purity. I was a deeply insecure man whose ambition made me vulnerable. I made a foolish, arrogant bargain and paid for it with my body, my mind, and finally, my life. Years later, in the graveyard of Little Hangleton, Voldemort himself would recount the story, dismissing me as a foolish and gullible wizard who was merely a convenient tool. After everything I endured, the possession, the degradation, the agonizing death, I was remembered by the master I served as nothing more than a means to an end. My tragedy is a cautionary tale about seeking validation through power. I didn't venture into that Albanian forest to serve evil. I went seeking respect. My fatal error was believing I was strong enough to control a force of absolute corruption. I wanted to be significant. I wanted to be seen. But in the end, I was simply erased. But what do you think? Was I a victim of circumstance, manipulated beyond my control? Or did my own ambition and arrogance make me ultimately responsible for my fate? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.